you guys gotta watch this Jordan doc, man. I mean, I know I'm like late to the game and it's cliche and be like, you gotta watch the Jordan doc. You gotta watch the Jordan doc. I know it's like last month's Tiger King. Now this month is the Jordan doc. But dude, this shit is crazy, man. This guy was a psychopath in the best way possible. I mean, this guy just wanted to win. I mean, you look at Kobe. I mean, obviously, we're watching all the Kobe stuff now. I mean, you really understand Kobe if you watch the Jordan stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, I grew up through this. I remember a lot of this. I was probably in the range of like 10 to 20 when Jordan was really relevant. It was like 90 through 2000. But dude, like this guy was nuts. I don't even think I could process that at that age. Like I don't, I knew he won, but I like the psychology behind how he won, you know, it's insane, man. Like literally pushing people to the brink of you could either deal with my shit or you don't. We're going to win. Are you on the boat or you're not? It's crazy, man. And by the way, Steve Kerr is a legend. Legend. I mean, literally the guy got in a fist fight with Jordan and gained his respect and then hit the game-winning shot for the fifth championship. Legend. There is a mentality, there's an approach, there is a psychology behind, being elite. Crazy work ethic. These guys were psychopaths. I think you gotta have to be a psychopath a little bit to want to do epic things in life. Yeah. Uh, Getting ready now to do my next podcast. I'm excited to have Dan Alva on the show. He is somebody that I met a few years ago, working with one of our agency clients. The guy has a unique skill set in regards to his ability to be an abstract creative, be very detail oriented, has a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, is an amazing artist in his own right. Like none of his work every year, like his work changes, pretty drastically from one year to the next, which is what I love. I was fortunate enough to go to his Art Basel show this year. They were showcasing some of his work and it was amazing to check it out. Honestly, one of the great joys of my life has been seeing this city grow. And I'm so happy I've gotten a chance to be a part of it. All right, so welcome to the Run Dog Run podcast. I'm really excited to have a good friend, Dan Alva, on the show today. Dan is the executive creative director at Republica, amongst many other things that we'll dive into. But welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, brother.
So,
Thank you. I know we've been talking about this for some time, so I'm glad we finally linked up and made it happen.
leave it to a quarantine to make it happen. I think you put an
Of
artist in a
course.
box and they're gonna figure out a way out of it. So, I look, man. What I find interesting about your journey is we're both the same age. We're both Miami kids that grew up in a city that didn't really have a strong. It definitely had one. Didn't have a strong art community. And we've seen it grow so much in our lifetime. But I guess take me through like your journey, man. Like how did you start getting into the arts and what was your interest early on?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in like a really kind of like classic household. My pops wanted me to be a like stockbroker, businessman, and the classic old school mentality approach as far as like go get a job and suit and tie and like is old mentality thinking, right? In which like advertising didn't even exist in their realm of like business and like Um, I think it started back in the day. I have a brother that used to work at Merrill Lynch, and it was one of those things. They're like, right, well, let's bring you in. You're like 14 years old. Let's give you an internship here. And I walk into this like stock world, and I'm like 14 wearing a tie. And I remember the whole thing was just like, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is like real deal shit. Like, it's great and all. Like, I liked it, but I think the whole professionalism and the level of just like properness kind of like threw me off. And I was just like, all right, well, I got to figure out how to make money and not have to wear a tie to suit every single day to work. And then at the same time, I was still shooting like a lot of photo with just like old Canons and like, everything in auto mode. I had no idea what manual was. And I was just like, just shooting, like when I would go out with my friends, I would just shoot photos and like just have the Rolodex of like the night events. And that just became something to do to kind of look back on. In which I have still every single photo I shot from like 2011. So I have blackmail on everybody, but it's one of those things that it was just like, I like to like document it, then bring it home the next day and then like edit it on the computer. And that's where Photoshop started, in which graphic design started. And then that's when I started looking more into like, oh my God, there's this world that like you could be a graphic designer in this professional advertising world, and make a career out of it. And I think that just slowly evolved from like, I figured out what agencies were, I figured out what advertising was, I figured out that, it's the most like corporate artistic job that I felt, that was legit, of course, that I could pursue. And then that's basically what got me into going to the art school in downtown. And then from there, it was just the Rolodex of agencies.
Nice, man. It's what I find. It's funny, man. Like everyone has like that moment from the beginning. Like for me, ironically was the Apple Store in the Falls, because I known about the Mac, and I don't know, man. Like I've always said this. Like me and my friend Alex that was on the show before, say that we're in that unique generation. Like technology, we were like that generation that was a bridge, like before technology was relevant, and then when technology was relevant. So, we're utilizing, like we were like the Macs, man. The Macs were just, people
Right.
always like, it's like it's not the tool, it's the artist. But I mean, let's be real. Those computers really, like, man, made us see the world in a completely different way.
Right.
Which is
No,
which is
100%. I think experienced that, and they had. I think back in the day they had those the big monitors that were like different colors and stuff. I forgot. It was like the old iMac, right? But the things were huge, bro. They were just like these like tubs with a screen on it, basically. But I remember just seeing all the colorway that they had, and they had it in like, I don't know, 10 different colors, and they were just like pushing this whole thing, and like they were blowing obviously like windows out of the water when it came to the advertising back then, just with how the direction and how powerful it was. But I mean, they did it right from the start, just like luring creatives and creative people into like a whole different operating system. That the first time I was on a Mac, I'm like, what the hell is this coming from Windows? But now I go to Windows and I don't even know how to work with Windows. I forgot how to get to settings and stuff like that. I'm like trying to like do stuff and I don't know how to. But no, it's that whole thing it's going to be untouchable. I
yeah,
don't think
man,
there's going to be a new Mac ever.
for sure, man. And so was there like influences in high school and things like that got you into it? Was there any specific medium that initially pulled you in?
Yeah, I would say photo for sure. I mean, I think photography was something that I unfortunately stopped doing because the iPhone has taken over cameras. And like when I travel, I don't want to carry a DSLR and like go all these places with two lenses like an idiot. So as much as I should and would love to continue doing that, I think photo was one of those things that I just got me about like documenting. And I remember I went to FIU for a couple semesters until I hated it. But there is this one lady, which I would love to hunt down her name. She was like an older hippie photography teacher, and she was super critical. But she was all about like sending all the kids on a mission to go shoot photos over the weekend, and then she would come back and she's like, "That's expected. You're taking a photo of your girlfriend, you're taking a photo of your dog, you're taking a photo of this car." Like everybody came with the same shit. Everybody came back with the same exact kind of Miami shots. And I think she was pushing all the kids there to like bring something different to the table, bring a whole different perspective. You're gonna go shoot a palm tree, but do it totally different than your typical palm tree shot. You know what I mean? So like, I think she opened up the eyes a lot, and I think that's kind of where I got into like a room in which you critique work, any kind of work, and basically you kind of have to have a really big backbone because you got people who are more daring to voice their opinion and why that photo sucks or that photo doesn't mean anything to them or why it could have been better like this. So I think that was a great start, and I started seeing that. And I also like the concept of like late at night going to go develop film in that photo area booth or whatever it's called, in like the lab, right? And I thought that was so cool to like, I'm at school doing a class, but I'm actually like doing something that I enjoy for the first time, and it's not like math or English, which I always sucked at. So it was like something that I'm like, man, I would love to just go through FIU and just only do photography classes. That would be incredible. So that was a huge gateway for sure to like schooling with art.
Yeah, I remember like it's funny you say the thing about like the first sessions of critique. Like when I went to UCF and we were in the film program, man, I remember how uncomfortable those critique sessions were because we
Okay.
were all young artists that didn't understand the concept of critique, man, and dude, it was
Right.
brutal. And watching everyone go through like the psychology of that was just
Right.
like nuts, seeing that for the
Right.
first time. Like it was enough that I remember to this day the feeling of like that the tension. You could cut it with a butter knife, man. It was
Yeah.
nuts.
Right. And to be honest with you, I mean, everybody's young. Everybody's like obviously an amateur and all that. So it's like nobody really knows what they're doing. And you can see that there was some kids that had some more experience because they were just in it earlier. And then there were some that just picked up a camera that day. So it was like, I feel like it was a nice middle ground that everybody had a nice, same level field to start at. But no, it was definitely interesting. I mean, I miss those days, honestly.
Do you still feel like when you create stuff, man, you still carry that insecurity with a lot of your work?
I used to. I used to at first was very critical on the work I would show and post, even like on social media when I started with the art game. I'm just like, is this worth showing or not? And then like little by little, I just stopped giving a fuck because I started realizing that I'm making the work for myself. And obviously advertising is one thing, but I think like the personal artwork is just like, I'm doing this for me. Like if it sells or it doesn't sell, it doesn't matter. I think this piece is dope. And I kind of have like this only child syndrome in the sense of like I want them all for me, and I kind of kid around this. I'm gonna buy all my artwork back, and which I do plan on about it. We can get into that, but like I make the work so that hopefully if they don't even sell, like in 60 years, I can go to a storage and go through all my works and like, oh, I did this in my 20s, I did this in my 30s, and it's kind of like a Rolodex of like projects. So no, I don't. I think I cared at first, but now it's just like I've seen what's out there, and there's so much shit too that you just got to have the confidence to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I think we're all masochists a little bit, man. Like even this
Yeah,
podcast is wildly painful for me at times, like just putting myself out there. But I think
yeah,
I think that fear
I
is
get
what
it.
drives us a little bit, man. It's like a little bit of a drug.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's whether we admit it or not, it's that's like that the heroin that hooked us a while back, man. We just can't let go of it.
I know a lot of people hate about Gary Vee just because he's so loud and obnoxious, but like I'm a fan of Gary, and I already have the missus looking at me for that comment. But like he has truth in like content, content, content. Drop content out there, good, bad, doesn't matter, but just keep putting it out there, and it's gonna come back little by little. And like, I mean, his whole thing is hustle. Period. Like, there's no other way around it. Just work, work,
Dude, and
work,
and,
work,
and
and
look how, I mean, look, I'll give you an example of him. It works, man. And it's funny. I feel like the eyeballs looking at me as well, saying this comment, but he just puts it out there, man. And he's been an inspiration for me to just do this, love him or hate him,
yeah,
because I'm just like, shit, I should just do this. And what's crazy is that, you know, I get his wine thing, 3 bottles every month for $50 and
right,
this, and like before you know it, he's already hooked you on something that you didn't even realize.
yeah,
And on top of it, man, like his stuff's inspiring. It's really real,
yeah.
and I know people hate it, but like his way, he just really speaks, definitely speaks and connects with our generation in regards to a lot of the things that we're insecure about, whatever. And people can say, "Oh, we're soft, we're this," but he's found a way to connect with that generation and do a great job, man. I think, but
Kudos to that guy.
for sure,
He wants to own the Jets. He probably will,
I know,
because I feel like that dude gets something in his head and he just doesn't stop till he
dude. He
gets it.
does. He
So
doesn't sleep, man. Doesn't feel like he
yeah, you
sleeps. He's
gotta give
like
him credit.
at 1,000.
We used
Um,
to go up against him a lot during for pitches for business, and he would sweep a lot because he's in New York and he goes down knocking on doors of clients, and he used to steal a lot of business from us and
it's
my other
crazy.
agencies. So he's the dude's pretty powerful over there.
It's crazy, man. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, after high school, you went to FIU. Any formal training through school or anything in arts, and then from there, like kind of, I guess your first few, I guess jobs, or what you do out of the gate.
Yeah, I right out of school, it was kind of around, it was somewhere around the era after 9/11. So no one was really hiring, right? So it was a little heated in the sense of like finding work in Miami, and especially at like good places. Like last thing I wanted to do was just like make research for like some like shitty design company. Not that that work's not important. I just wasn't what I wanted to do. And there was agencies like Crispin and White and Kennedy, which were like the top of the notch back in the day, and I mean White and still is, but they were just doing incredible work, like meaningful work, like stunts and great films and like stuff that was just like, goddamn, this is like not even advertising, this is art in a sense, right? And it was so inspiring that all I wanted to do was be a part of these shops. Luckily enough, I had a connection at White and Kennedy in Amsterdam, so I spent an internship out there,
Wow,
and that was like my first technical real job, in which it was like 3 month program, and unfortunately, I didn't have it set up, so they just threw me in the mix, and like basically, I was just begging for work. But I was in Amsterdam and I was working at one of the top shops, so it was still a great experience to like be in that world and learn how it works. And then after that, I came back to Miami, and I was just like banging down the door at Crispin in the Grove. It's a huge agency that did incredible work, and they still do. But they did all the truth stuff, they did all the N1 stuff, the mini work. They basically launched mini campaigns with cars from top to bottom. So like they were just doing incredible work, and it wasn't even advertising; it was like guerrilla marketing, and it was like the bad boys of advertising. That's kind of like what brought me into it, from like a street culture approach to like the fuck you attitude, like this is what we're doing, kind of like not budging back kind of attitude. So I got some internships there. I did the Miami office, I did the Boulder office, and then after that, it's great. I met so many people I still talk to, good friends to this day.
Yeah, I
Um,
was telling you earlier. I mean, I feel like for me, again, started Merge at 23. As you know, man, when you're young, and if I'm trying to be a production company young, you like, my chance at an opportunity to get my foot in any of these places, I gotta build my body of work. I gotta build a reputation. It's just not gonna happen that easy. So like, really, I
yeah,
didn't do a lot of work with agencies early on because I was just didn't have the expertise or the body of work. So for me, when I hear people talk about Crispin, it's like this like mythical creature that once I started
yeah,
getting into working with some of these agencies, it had already like either fizzled out or wasn't as relevant. But I see all of these incredible people all across Miami that have either started their own agencies or are working at other agencies or doing things that are all like offspring of that like Crispin culture, man. It's so crazy how important that agency was in Miami to breed all that talent.
yeah. And it's crazy that it was in Miami too. I mean, Miami's just not an advertising hub at all. And that was one of the top agencies in the world for a long period of time, and they were down the street in Coconut Grove, which is insane, right? So it is a big shop, and it's very important. There's a lot of incredible people that came out of there that are just all over the world now, still doing amazing work. And like you mentioned, it was just kind of like it was a huge stepping stone. It was a boot camp too, because the hours there were no joke, and it was like drinking the Kool-Aid, but in a positive way. And they knew how to deliver it because it was very much in the sense of like culture, 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 IT agency. And it was the first place I walk into an office that there's like dogs and skateboards and beanbags and like the typical kind of Google office, but like they did it back in the day before it was even cool. Right. So it was a very natural thing for them. And it was very alluring, man. It was pretty incredible shop. I wish they can reopen Miami.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I remember, like this was when I was gonna do merge wear. This was before Merge Studios. Like me and my friends did a clothing line, and we went and went to one of these club flyer places that were all these computers were like Photoshop. And I walked in, and there's like all these figurines and stuff, and all these guys are wearing like jeans and t-shirts and sneakers. And I think I had like that moment where I was like, I looked around, and it was all these Macs, and these guys just all looked like they were creating and playing. And I'm like, dude, this is what I want to do. This is
Yeah.
literally like what I want to do, man. This is
Right.
crazy. And I still think to
Right.
this day why, I like the basketball hoop here at Merge and, wearing like the Jordans every day and shit. It's
Of
just
course.
it's just not abandoning like the inner child, man. Just go to work and play every day, man. It's I feels like the luckiest thing in the world.
It is, and it's so important too for just like all the coworkers too to have that vibe that like yeah you're going to work, but the environment is like more relaxed and it allows you to be creative and it's a little bit of like realness, right? Everything doesn't have to be so suit and tie and so corporate and so buttoned up. I feel like especially in the creative aspect, you gotta let people kind of go. But yeah, I think that's super important. Culture is everything for agencies, man.
So you went down, I guess tell me a little bit about, what it's like to be, an art director for I mean 12 plus. I think you said I read something 12 plus years, but I'm sure it's longer than that now. But 12 plus years being an art director for all of these, brands and kind of what that's like, man. I mean, take me through that experience, man, and how intimidating or even what the experience of working with these large brands is like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started off with graphic design as I mentioned, and like I try to be. I look a lot of portfolio books of kids now just coming out of school, and recently we did a talk at MIU. No, not MIU. Sorry, Miami Ad School. Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Um, Boom. So yeah, so I look at a lot of portfolio books from Miami Ad School, and all these kids coming out, and they really do have incredible work, but there's a lot of just like school work, and you can tell that it's school based, and you can tell that like I look at three books and they have the same assignment for of course Burger King, just because it's an agency in Miami, so it's a company in Miami, so. I feel like it's important for kids coming out of school that want to be art directors to kind of do projects for brands that they really like, but look at the competitors, look at everybody else that's coming out of school at the same time and kind of build the Rolodex. Like if you love Nike, do a project for Nike, even if it's spec. You can go shoot something. Everybody has these iPhones, cameras, and things to pull off nowadays that like you can make a campaign straight out of your iPhone if you really want to, right? And there's different ways of spinning it. Um, but art direction, it's interesting because it involves so many different layers, and I think it's important. Like I know art directors who are not really good designers, and that's fine, right? Because art direction at the end of the day is you're directing art, from photo shoots to video to voiceover recordings to a little banner. There's so many aspects to it, and it's so broad. I mean, there's art directors in fashion, right? There's art directors in so many different levels. And it is, I feel like it's just something that builds with over time. I think it's the more art directors can see anything that's creative. I'm up to date with almost everything in the award circuit when it comes to awards and what brands are doing what, and like what's going on in advertising to what's going on in fashion. And I care about car advertising. I also care about what the little agency on the block is doing, right? So I think it's just being exposed to a lot of stuff and be exposed to as many visuals as possible, because there's nothing worse than a like outdated art director that just doesn't know how to like bring a modern approach to some stuff, right? So
What do you start with? I mean, does it depend on the project? Like, are you like, do you start with visual stuff? Do you start writing? Do you start like, do you have a process that you kind of go through, or does it vary? Do you, I guess, how do you, when you're starting a new project, where do you start? I guess people have different processes for how they're looking at something.
yeah. I'm pretty conceptual when it comes to thinking. I like to just like stop, think. I mean, especially the whole traditional way in advertising is that you get a brief, and obviously strategies work behind that, and there's usually a one key most important single message that you kind of have to like answer. And I really like working off one line. If you can kind of tell me one line that the brand needs, like whatever the need of the brand is, if you can really explain that to me in one sentence, and I can find an idea that answers that one sentence, it's basically a win, and it works, right? So I do appreciate kind of like super simple strategy, one pagers that kind of like explain everything that the client needs. But I do tackle it just like straight from experience, man. Like I think a lot of this stuff comes from within. If we're tackling a client, like what does this client mean to me? How has it affect my life, or how does it affect someone that I would think it would affect, right? So I basically I just sit down in concept and do a lot of, obviously research is king too. Like I find ideas anywhere from YouTube comments to a Reddit post. Like if you really dig in the internet, there's ideas there for you. It's just heavy digging. You're basically a detective for a brand. So I usually do that. I jump on their YouTube channel and I read every single comment that people are saying, because that's real comments from real people that have nothing to do with advertising, right? So, and I think if you can kind of like talk to them and you just talk to Joe Schmo from the middle of Kansas, I think it's really important to like, you've hit that range, you hit that broad spectrum, and you're not just speaking to New Yorkers or East Coast or West Coast people, right? So I try to dig deep into what the meaning of the brand is and what it means to the people, because I feel like if you talk to the right consumer, it can really work well.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the other day, they were like, somebody posted something that YouTube like turned 15 years old or something like that. And I was like fascinated by that because, based off what you're just saying, it's like, it's amazing how much information you get off of social media and how much like that platform. And it's like, we've literally both, ridden that platform to now. And like, how has that, I mean, you just said it, but like how has social media and things like that sort of, made everything evolve through the last like 15 years? What kind of impact do you think it's made, good and bad?
Yeah. I mean, social media obviously is a great way for brands to, talk to their audience without having to invest crazy into a TV production, as or, a whole print shoot. So it's like, there's ways of talking to the masses. I think like Slim Jim does an excellent job on social media. I don't know if you follow him, but like,
No.
I don't know who's behind the scenes. I feel like it's just like this stoner kid in New York that they just handed him an iPhone and be like, you are the voice of Slim Jim. We're going to pay you X amount of money. And this is all you do every day, all day. But they do an incredible job. I don't know who the hell's behind that, but like you can literally jump on other brands' channels and you can see them posting, and like they're all over the place. Besides the content that they're doing, that's extremely like pop culture relevant, and it's just crazy weird stuff. But they're jumping in the competitors. Like they'll jump in Oscar Mayer, and you can see there's a comment at the bottom that Slinton said something that has to do with their post. And I feel like that's so important to like be that brand that you're not really attacking them, but you're a part of all the conversations in which I'm going to see that comment and I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go back to their feed. So social media is massive and it's only going to get bigger for sure. I hope it doesn't kill, and I don't think it ever will, like the traditional print and traditional kind of forms of advertising. but it's another form that's coming into the pot that, I mean, you and I are going to have to think on. And it's not just like, hey, I need a campaign with 7 spots. It's like, I need a campaign with 7 spots, and we have to deliver X amount of social media content. And I'm sure you get that all the time.
Oh
It's so
yeah.
important to have that thinking into it too.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like I was talking about this on on the last podcast. It's like my dad gave me this advice because I was just like when you're catching this moving target that is, filmmaking and content and social media and broadcast stuff and this and that. You just gotta like almost focus on the idea that you're just a storyteller. And that's really you can evolve through all mediums if you keep that mentality and.
Yep.
But that's what's so crazy, man. How much things are and it's like the other day I was like messing with somebody in the office, Chloe from my team. I think she's 29, 28 or 29, and she didn't know what TikTok was, and I'm like, that's it. You're old. That's how quick it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm not trying to get into that yet. I mean, I have this thing of like I love to own all the usernames. Like I try to get all my usernames in all the new platforms, and I'm just like I'll just get it and then like forget about it. And like if TikTok does blow up, at least I got the username that I wanted. I'm weird like that, and I love to like own it all. But I just it's hard as hell. I can't even understand it, man. I open the app, and I'm just like, what do I even do? And all I see is people dancing. So I'm not sure how that helps me in my like art game. So I'm not sure
No,
what the
and
use
people are like, no, it's awesome. Check it out. You'll like it because it's like story. It's like your story, but you get to edit it and you get to put music and effects. And I'm like, I don't even like posting on my Instagram story. Like that's not even like a thing I do frequently. And I'm just like, so now I got to edit the stuff also. And it's just funny, man. It's like all this stuff.
It probably will blow up, and we're probably like already antiquated and old dudes for even like talking about TikTok like this. But like it probably will blow up, and then like damn, we really didn't like leverage that. But I
And
don't
then
know.
we'll
I
have to and
prefer
then we'll
just
have to
this.
watch a Gary Vee video reminding us that we missed it.
Yeah. Oh, he already said it. He already said TikTok's gonna be the next thing. It's gonna blow out Instagram, so it's only a matter of time. He said it for sure. But I don't know. I liked the scrapbook effect of Instagram. It's like the forever. You basically have a forever feed of just inspiration to look at for whatever channel you're into. And it's hard to beat. So I'm still staying IG all day.
No, it's pretty incredible, man. It's like I see videos of there from 2013. I mean, photos from 2013, 14, and my boys are like one, and it's just like very specific photos. Like I see pictures, not to get like like sad here, but pictures of my grandmother around the time that she passed away, pictures of my kids when they were like super tiny, and then
Yeah.
gradually you're going through all these experiences. You see shit from merge through the years, and you're like, man, it's unbelievable how you just scroll through like those little boxes, man, and it creates this experience, man, that you're reliving through a through a platform which Facebook and Twitter and none of these other
Yeah.
things have the ability to do that.
Those photo albums that like your parents had back in the day that they would put in and stuff? It's basically that in your pocket, right? Like but it's like digital, so like anybody can see it. And like I have like boxes of photos that like I never go through, right? And one day I'll go through it, but it's just like it's not accessible.
Yeah.
Even like putting stuff on your hard drive, it's just like, oh fuck, I gotta go look for it, and it's in 100 folders in there. Just like having it all just right then and there that anyone can see it, is what I really enjoy about it for sure.
For sure, man. Let's talk about the 800-pound elephant in the room. Coronavirus.
There we
Dude,
go. I knew we were gonna bring it up.
we have to. I mean, how could we not,
Of course.
man? Like, so I'll start with this, man. I'll start with this because, I think the creatives in us all came to this realization pretty early on, and I thought I was like unique for seeing this perspective. Realized everyone had it. Where, this situation has caused like the psychology of forced human reflection, and everyone's
Right.
going through it. And what in the world does that do to our ability to connect with people through anything, storytelling, advertising, anything? Like, what is that? What are we entering here?
Crazy open ended. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, I'm very much in it through the ad side of it, of course, because all brands do want to communicate during this time, and it's a good thing and bad thing, right? I feel like there's brands that don't need to be talking about, it's I think when it really went off that first week or two that we were under lockdown, I was getting emails from everybody, like any news list, any like email list that you're on, you're basically getting an email from them about like how they're here to support you and how they're here, but from like a bathing suit company to like obviously something that actually matters. But my question is, why the fuck is a bathing suit company talking to me about coronavirus when you guys just sell bathing suits? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like the right brand needs to jump in that conversation and in that message and actually do something to help and not just be a greedy brand that just wants their name out and be another brand like I'm here for you. But I mean, fuck, you turn on TV and every other commercial is the same. Everybody, and as you know, everything's stock footage with a really nice VO and some sentimental music in the background, and basically the same message at the end, which is great. Yes, do it. But I think it's certain brands that should only be talking about this conversation and not every single brand.
Yeah, I think what's going to be really interesting is that it feels like this is like a super hard reset button, and we think the creative thing is happening right now, but it's really not. It's like this hard reset button, and it's like everything that's going to come after this, because everyone now looks at the world differently, and now your brand's perspective of the world is completely different. And how's your brand gonna? I guess I just feel like everyone's voice is going to be altered a little bit, some more than others, but I think that the
Sure.
voice of the brand is going to be different after.
Yeah, that and the mindset of clients too. And you can definitely jump into this as far as like what's production going to mean for like, I miss already the classic of like flying a set, waking up early, talking to the director, having a coffee, being a crew of, there's 300 people on set, 200 people on set. Like, there's too many parts on set anyways. But I already missed that. And you already know that it's going to change. It's going to evolve. There's going to be a lot more like, well, you guys pulled off this shoot during coronavirus with basically two people. Why can't we do this again next year during summer for some other thing? So
Yeah.
that's going to change the mindset of a lot of clients. But I do feel the classic shooting approach is not going to change. It's still going to be there at its heart. But the ability to pull something off, like I've done full shoots on WhatsApp. I've done full shoots on FaceTime. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a new way to produce.
Look,
And
man, it's
how
just,
this,
it's just storytelling. Look, I'd be lying if I told you that I don't love. I mean, who doesn't love the big productions, man? It's like, as a filmmaker, it's exhilarating, man. It's teamwork at its finest. It's so many obstacles to overcome. When you overcome, I mean, it even on the agency side, when you kick ass and you crush a shoot, it's exhilarating, man. There's nothing like it. I mean, for me at least, it's amazing. But I've realized that it might be a while before we get back to that. So you
yep,
know, that's what we've been figuring out, is just we also have like the ability where we've done these smaller productions where we're focusing on how we can create an experience close to that with crews under 10 people. And that's really been our focus, because with under 10 people, man, we can control the safety of the set. We can have
right,
certain requirements, things like that, make it safe for you guys, agencies. But
right,
that's the challenge, man. We'll have to work with a lot of like elements that are around us versus heavy art direction or these bigger productions, because it's gonna be tough, man. I mean, even something like used to do all those tabletops, man, like that's gonna be crazy, because those are pretty big crews, man. You just don't realize it because
yeah,
they're all macro shots.
yeah. You're right, and there's so much work behind the scenes that involves from like set building to the lights to catering to the sound guy. I mean, there's just so many roles on set that it is crazy in how they're going to pull that off with just limited crew. I mean, I know that I'm sure you guys are going to offer that. There's going to be a way that you're going to have a crew in LA shooting, and I'm sure the client can go in your office and you guys are going to be able to live stream it, and the
Yeah.
feedback goes back and forth.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
and
talk
and,
about
and things like staggering, there's things that I've been reading, like staggering lunches for crews and everyone, having the lighting crew go in and do the setup and then leave set, and then having people come in. And it's just creative ways to look at the workflow.
right,
Definitely like remote, having setting up a monitor for client at the agency and having them be able to see, almost like offsite video village, is
right,
like a way to do it. Again, and even the basic stuff, like all the crews, all the people that are there, everyone wearing masks, everyone, having Purell. I mean, like a sanitation station for the shoot. I mean, crazy shit, but that's literally like the stuff that we're developing. Like we even have like a sheet where we're just like, all right, yeah, you're gonna have, everyone has to wear masks, everyone has to do this. We're even gonna like check temperatures when people come in, just with like one of those gun things. Like, again, it's
yeah,
crazy, but I know that, like, once you get through that awkwardness of like those first few productions, like people will appreciate the safety aspect of it. And once you start delivering work to your client that they're used to getting from you, then I think it's going to validate everything that was really weird about that process, because it's definitely going to be weird.
100%.
Yeah, man. you know, a lot of artists like start their, you know, they're creatives, they start their professional journey,
Yep.
and then they realize, oh shit, I forgot about me. Did that happen to you, or was it always something that you had on the side that you always did?
I mean, I think side hobbies are super important for creatives. I mean, we're all busting so many hours of work every day, working for brands and like, yes, doing something that we love. But you are working for someone else at the end of the day. You are working for an agency or a client or something. So it's so important to kind of have that side hustle um, of what you're into. If you like shooting photo, shoot photo. If you like making art, do it. So I think side hustles are so important for all creatives because I think we all work for agencies or clients and like doing something on the side for the weekends I think just helps build that inspiration. Then when you go back Monday through Friday, right? I mean, if you like shooting photo, you should probably shoot photo, even if it has nothing to do with the brand. Or if you like to paint or draw or build or make sculptures or whatever, I think the side hustle is extremely important to kind of let out as far as like right what you're into and what you really want to do and there's ways that it can influence both, like the work life and the creative side life. I think those two can come into play visually. Because even when I like paint and I build and when I'm like doing projects and like I'm doing a series of work, I treat it as an advertising campaign. As far as let me think of 10 paintings. Let me think on the build out. I get into Photoshop first. I design all the paintings in Photoshop, so I have an idea exactly what that final end product is because I really love to see it before just like let me walk into the studio and like wing it because I really don't work like that. So I think it's good to have that structure. And even then, like, how am I going to photograph it? How is it going to be? Is it going to be, are the photographs going to be vertical? Are they going to be horizontal? How's the painting going to fit in that? Where am I going to shoot it in the studio? Like, all those things are super important. So I do bring both aspects of it into the art world and into the studio. I do bring that kind of like construct of making a campaign, which I think
Yeah,
works well.
that's definitely something unique that I've noticed from you that I don't always see from a lot of creatives or even you know um, people that we collaborate with on like agency side is that you're very particular, man. And most creatives, like, not that they wing it, but they're not as particular as you. Like, even prepping for this podcast, like, you were involved in, like, I was telling you a little bit what we're gonna touch, and you were like involved in it. And even when we did one of the even the smaller projects that we did, we were doing like a video on the agency. You're very particular. And again, I know that that's part of your job, but you don't see artists that tend to have that level of
Detail.
detail. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for the details, bro. I think that's really where it's at a lot of the times. I mean, there's so many good artists that like you would think that it's so modern and so simple work, but then there's just like one little thing in it that it just like throws the whole thing off. Or the medium that they use or the way the sculpture is. I mean, like Jeff Koons is a perfect example. Like those things look like those sculptures that he does look like pool toys, like the blow ups or the pool floaties. But then like you read it and it's made out of cast bronze or iron or whatever the hell it's made out of, and the production value behind that was
Dude,
insane.
I was just in I was just in LA this summer. What am I saying, in February? And dude, I
Yeah,
saw an entire exhibit of his at the new museum they have out there, which, by the way, I can't
yeah,
remember off the top of my head, but incredible. This place it's an architectural marvel. But you walk
yeah. The Brook,
upstairs.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And
The
then
Brook, yeah,
and they had, and you had the giant, the dog. But then you realize that it's
yeah,
like, dude, but it was like a reflective this, and the scale
yeah,
of it is impressive, and you don't realize until you see it. But the one that was crazy was they had a piece that he did in 1990 that he was commissioned by Michael Jackson. It was Michael
yeah. I
Jackson
saw,
with
yeah,
bubbles, and it's all
yeah.
porcelain.
It's all porcelain, right?
Bro,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fucking huge.
yeah.
And me and my wife were
It's
just
huge.
like
Yeah,
in awe of this thing. Like, this is really
yeah, bro.
awkward that we're so in awe of a Michael Jackson thing because she had just watched
Yeah,
the doc. But at the
yeah,
same time, it was super impressive, man.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to production value like that, like you gotta give it to those. I mean, those blue chip artists obviously can afford it, and they have a whole squad of people who are doing this behind the scenes. But like, I mean, Damien Hirst does the same thing too. Like, the production value is just like I think that's part of the art too. As much as people hate on Hirst, like he's one of the greatest, man. Like in the sense of like how he pulls things off. I mean, you know how hard it is to chop a cow 20 different times, put it into tanks, make the whole thing look beautiful, and still have the art survive. Like there's just so much planning, and like all those pieces have probably been years in the making, right? So it's not like just like yo, let's get a cow and chop it up. Like it's like a process of like that didn't work out and like trial and error until they make it happen. it's pretty impressive. And when it comes to production value, like I'm more in awe of like there's all these articles about it too, as far as like these facilities are in the outskirts of New York that like build these sculptures for artists. Like those guys are like the true artists. You know what I mean? Like those guys are the ones making these sculptures, like for Jeff Koons and stuff. Yes, Koons like conceptualized it and like thought about it, and it is his work. But the guys behind the scene are like incredible artists. They just, I feel like, never had the break or like to be behind the scenes.
Yeah, people don't realize. I remember when I went to to Thousand Oaks, I went to Risky's shop and I saw Risky's like whole setup, and people don't even understand like the magnitude of what it takes to be these guys, man. Like it's a whole thing, man. There's like the fluorescent bulb guys coming in and bringing this piece, and then they're attaching it to like it's just the scale of all this, man. And when they do so, they're like a whole production arm that's just cranking out the prints and doing the things and getting it ready, and then what he's doing on his own, and then he's prepping, doing like an entire building, which like the scale that some of these guys are doing these murals are insane. So dude, it's just so many little details in regards to everything they do, man, that it's crazy, man.
No, the fabricators behind all that stuff are there's sometimes they need a more of a shout out than they get, you know what I mean? And I mean that even involves when it comes to production and set, like, you know what I mean? Like how much, like, why don't the set guys get more praise, right? Like that's art in its sense, right? Like these guys are building things from scratch out of nowhere, and like they're pulling things off, and obviously our timing's always insane, so we always need something as fast as possible within days. And like I've known that these guys are working their ass off all through the night just to get something ready for production the next day. And I think they need more credit for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. So, tell me a little bit about, some of these. Let's
Jesus, walk away.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Dude, I do want to tell you one thing, man, and I don't want to forget to say this on the podcast, but for me, man, it was such a big moment, and I'll always, dude, I was telling actually Ari this story the other day because he was asking like who was the next guest. I told him that we were gonna do it, and I told him this story, and it's one of my favorite stories of you ever, man. Like, so when I started Merge, man, the only way that I can financially get off the ground is I started like Merch Social, and it was we were doing we were doing the wedding films and stuff like that. So then we became friends at David, all that, and then you called me and you're like, dude, do you would you be down to do our wedding film? And I was like, dude, I went through the whole process in my head. I was like, yeah, because for so long I felt like I couldn't admit to anyone that we had like this social event division and then this commercial division. Like you couldn't, because before you guys, it was just like looked down upon so much in regards to anybody in the agency world and all that. And I'll never forget you telling me like, you're like, fuck that shit. I don't care about that, man. At the end of the day, you're hustling, man. Like, and I'll never forget that moment being so significant for me, because it made me realize that this was a new generation that wasn't like the previous one, and that they respected, the entrepreneurial spirit, the hustle and all that.
100%.
And bro, I honestly, bro, it's silly, but everyone has like their insecurities, bro. Like that was a big moment for me, because it made me, take, just to be like, it was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, to take ownership of being like, that's who I am. That's what started Merge. This is Merge. And that was such an awesome moment, bro. And whatever, it was cool.
And even for Merge Social, I mean, like, it's still one of the better ones in Miami. I mean, obviously you guys are killing it, and hence why I reached out. But I still think it's important. I don't see how that that actually goes against the other work you do. I feel like it's two separate entities for me, and that's a focus in one side of the business, and then there's a other focus here.
For sure.
But no, I mean, the work's great, obviously.
And my whole thing was always funny. I'm like, what's more creative than taking like a stagnant product that nobody even valued before, and then making it cinematic? I'm like, in many respects, I was like, dude, that's, creative in itself. But I think what's the thing that's unique about your work, and we'll get to Basil, but like the thing that's unique about your work is that as I've been looking at it, year after year, it varies a lot, man. Like it does. You jump around a lot, man, and it's very, very concept oriented, and the concepts are drastically different one year to the next.
Yeah, it's a good point. Great observation. I mean, basically, when I started kind of messing around more in the studio, I kind of wanted to have a structure to things. I mean, I feel like we all need structure, right? And like, there's artists who just like every piece is different and every single work one can be a sculpture, the other one can be a painting, but like you put them all in a room and you would think it's 20 different artists, right? Without kind of knowing that it's the same artist that did all these pieces, which is nothing wrong with that. I do appreciate it. And I kind of feel like I do that, but in a series itself, right? Like even from the Brandalism works were basically, bus stops that I would take and paint over, to the Tar and Neon series, which is like such a different juxtapose to that, to even the Scrap series, which are like sculptures that I made out of scrap from the studio, to now the Outsource series, which is a little more of a traditional aspect of painting. I was looking for my own voice for a while, and it was kind of like shooting a bit in the dark as far as what was going to take off and what was going to have the biggest reaction in the art world. So, some things didn't work out as I planned. And, what I thought was like, yeah, this is great. I can pump this series out forever. And it really kind of didn't take off the way I wanted it to. And then there was other ones that I just wanted to visualize it and see it to life. Like the Tar and Neons, I only did 3 of them, and I still own all 3 of them because I don't really want to get rid of them because there's only 3 that exist. But those pieces were just
you got to give your shit away, bro.
Yeah, no, you guys need one for the space. But it was just, I just want to see these ideas come to life. And it was more of that. Like, I'm going to go full blown in. I'm going to produce it. I'm going to invest money into them. I'm going to make them. And finally, when I have them, I go, okay, great. I'm satisfied with them. I'm going to move on to the next series. But I do need to work in buckets. And there's something to say as far as like artists being known for a series of work. Like when you see a cause, you know it's a cause. When you see a Rena, you know it's a Rena. Like, right? So it's like, there's something about that you would hope that a series of works, when you see them, you're like, oh, I know who that's by, even if it's a new piece. I think that's so important. So that's why I've been working in these buckets, and I'm gonna try to keep doing that. But this latest series, the Outsource, which is more of the traditional approach, kind of with like a modern twist, I'm gonna ride that out for a bit because I am enjoying doing them, and I just want to go bigger and crazier shapes and see how many more paintings I can incorporate into one painting. So this one you will definitely be seeing for a longer period of time.
Yeah, sure. Man, I love this one, man. I remember the first time you showed it to me. I think we were at the Mighty, and you showed me it on your laptop, and I'm like, dude, it was instantly fell in love with it, man. I think what it is that it has like that classic feel, and then just like almost like the camouflage lines or the different ways that you're integrating them together it just pops. So you don't have like, it's not overly classic. It's again classic with a modern twist. And now that you were saying like that there's so much you could do, like going bigger, like instantly just started thinking of, one of the things that was super impressive at the Louvre when I went with Gina was, dude, like the magnitude of these canvases. I mean, some of them are 3 stories, 4 stories tall, man. And just so, you just sit there and look at them. And it'd be crazy. I mean, to do not obviously that scale, but something large like that, man, would be so cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love going big. I always think, which is crazy. I always say big paintings, big houses, big checks. And it's really true in the sense of like, there's something about the scale. I've done the same painting. Like there's this Mona Lisa that I did that's a 20 by 30, which is pretty small. But your average small apartment can have that and hang it, and they can be proud of the work. But they can't hang a huge ass, 75 by whatever piece in the house because there's just no space. So there's something to say about the different kind of collectors, and you do kind of have to, like, I do try to help, not help. I do try to like be there for both of them in the sense of like, if you really want one of these works, I can make it happen at a smaller scale. But I'm really just trying to focus on going big. And even the gallery that I work with Oliver Cole, he's just like, go big, go big, go big. Because like when you do see these paintings and you do step away, like the impact is totally different than from smaller works. And I'm trying to go as big as possible. It's just extra amount of work and extra amount of material, and it just requires a little more thinking to really pull it off. And of course, when it comes to shipping these pieces, is a nightmare. So there's a middle ground in which you kind of have to stop on the size, and until I got a production like Jeff Koons, I can't really go that big.
Yeah. No, and dude, you guys have you have a great partner with it's Oliver Cole, right?
Yeah, Oliver Cole. He's awesome, man. He was I brought him this Outsource series. I brought him basically just like Photoshop files, like renders, maybe like 2 years ago. I'm just like, yo, what do you think about these? And I wasn't even working with him at the time. Kind of, not really. And I just showed him these pieces, and I'm just like, yo, what do you think about them? He's like, yo, I love these. It's just be like attack this full steam ahead. And I kind of needed that push because I was a little unsure, but I probably designed like 30, 40 paintings in Photoshop And I narrow it down. I just design a bunch, and like every painting basically has 10 different versions that I try to like cut it up, chop it up, change it. Maybe this doesn't work. And sometimes I recreate the painting in Photoshop, just like where that just character lived in the painting really wasn't in real life there, because I feel like it needs to be a little unique and each one have their own kind of say. But he was a huge say in like pushing this series and making it happen and like really making it different, which I think
You
is the most important part.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy, man. When you don't, it's funny. I was hearing Jay-Z talk about this the other day, at, like on an interview or something. He's like, he was talking about songs that he left the studio, and he just was like, "That was fire. That's it. That's the one, man. That's like the pinnacle of my
Yeah.
creativity." And then like nobody cared. And then like the ones that you create, look, and you're insecure about that one.
Yeah.
Initially, and then you realize like people connect with it because I'm telling you, man, like there's when I saw the first few of those, I was like, man, I want that. And I've been bothering you, since to try to get over to shop and check it out. I don't know
Yeah.
how long it'll be with the quarantine, but I definitely need
Right.
one of those in my house, man. Like it's funny, my house, we're like working on like tweaks to it or whatever right now, and it definitely is lending itself to a gallery kind of feel. Like it's like just basic, very simple floors, white walls, and I remember telling Gene, I'm like, I want to make this feel like a gallery because I just want to be able to put people's work up. I just want to walk through
Yeah.
inspiration, and that's like an
Yeah.
awesome, that's an awesome way to approach a house, is to be able to make it just a platform to showcase other people's work, man.
No, and that's a great point too. And even when it comes to collecting, I mean, like, obviously a lot of people just can't afford big time artists, but there's still stuff out there that like even locally people are making that like you can get at an affordable price, but you do want to buy something that like you want to wake up to and look at every day and like still enjoy it years to come, right? I don't think
For
like
me,
people need
it's
to invest
the
in time.
for me the dude the Lauren Bacall that I have here at Merge,
Of course,
that Van did, man. Dude, I just love it, man. Like the first time I saw it, I was just like, I
100%,
want a Lauren Bacall piece. It was just cool, man.
100%. Shout out to our boy, of course.
Yeah,
No, I
dude.
mean, there's things like that it's just like a supporting like locals. Like I was at some point was only going to buy local artists, and my entire collection was only going to be Miami artists. And then actually it started to change, but there is something more that I want to support. And there's a lot of people in the city that do great stuff that I'm like, man, I'd love to have that piece in the house. But it's things that like just don't go to Z Gallery and buy a print and like hang it up on a wall and it's the same print that everybody has of New York skyline. Like, do not do that. Like, go out of your way and like if you care about it, of course, right? Like, go out of your way and collect work that you truly like. And I think there's like a feeling, and they all become part of you, right? And you all own these pieces, and like I just hope I have it everything, even in the future. Like I hope they're still dope to me in like 30 years. I'm like, yeah, this piece is still awesome. I'm glad I bought it when I did.
Yeah, there's these
With
guys out of LA. There's these guys out of LA like doing, it's called like House of Spoils. They keep popping up on my Instagram, but it's just they get photographers that have these amazing prints, and one of them is like, I think it's like four women coming down, and there's like a silhouette, and they're coming down like a mountain, black and white print with dust in the background on like motorcycles, dude.
yeah,
And it's just like a big print of that in black and white is gorgeous, man. And there's just so much great visual stuff. I agree that you just try not to buy something, again, Z Gallery, like trying to find creative ways. And there are
right,
ways to do it, man. Like a lot of these artists, look, man, they understand that, certain aspects of their work is, they need to sell it at a high price to sustain the thing. But a lot of these artists, man, if you're just like a fan, genuine, they 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 want you to have that work as much as you want to buy it, man, and
of
just
course,
work with them, man. And it's
100%.
like a special thing to make that connection with these artists, man. And then know that, like I know Van, every time I post something with the photo with the Lauren Bacall, it means something to him, and that means something to
Of
me
course,
because
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, man.
And it's good that a friend has it too. I think it's so important. Like he can come down to Miami and come see his own piece hanging at your space. You know what I mean? Like I think that's so important too. Like there is sometimes like I sell work and it disappears to New York, and I'm like I'm sure it's going to a great home and like it's a great collector. Obviously, he was able to afford it. But am I ever going to see that piece again? Is kind of like in the back of my mind worries me. Because I do want to embrace these works in like 30 years. I would love to see pieces that I did in the 2000s, but I don't know if I am. And I
Yeah.
always kind of joke around as far as like I hope to buy all my works back one day when I can afford them all. I'm just gonna buy them all, and people are gonna rip me off because they're gonna sell it to me from a higher price point than I sold it for. But like, if I can do it, I'm definitely gonna do it 100% because at the end of the day, I kind of want to see all these pieces again, or at least own a few of them that unfortunately I had to let go.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Like even I was thinking about that, like going through Basel this year, just again, Cause's work is so iconic, and it pops off, like, just you just see it from a mile away, and
Right. Right.
it's just everywhere, man. And it's so crazy
Yeah.
to have, like, and what I realized is, I didn't realize this until recently. We were talking about, like, you know, Miami's basically art community being super young. And I was blown away the other day when like Winwood was founded in 2009. I was like, dude, Winwood, this happened in 10 years. This is
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
Cause
It's
is the
wild.
same thing. Like, I think Cause's first art show was like in 08, 09, like his first show ever.
Yeah. It might have been one in Miami. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I know he
yeah.
had
It
one of the
was,
big ones in Miami at the old Gagosium. Or maybe it wasn't Gagosium. It was something here. Remember that spot that was on somewhere in Winwood? I remember going to that show, and I remember he had the SpongeBob paintings.
yeah, it was
Um,
Pharrell was that one that helped put that together,
yes,
which
that's the
which
one.
I didn't
That's the
know,
one.
because I was doing a project on Pharrell, and I was doing a lot of research. And when I discovered that, I'm like, that's crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
Pharrell
Yeah.
really is like a curator of our generation,
Yeah.
man. He's like the one that's like, look over here and look over here and look at that. And I feel like it's crazy, man. You know, he's pointed us in so many directions.
Yeah, you got to give it to him, man. He definitely has like his hand in culture for being. You don't even know how old that man is because he looks like he's like a vampire. He doesn't even age. It's incredible, but he definitely has his hand in the culture as far as like what's cool and what's not, and like what's the next thing.
For sure, man. Well, brother, I don't know if we've missed anything, man, but this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Um,
Thank you, brother.
yeah, dude, this was great, man. And man, continued success. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you for years to come, man, on cool stuff. I'm definitely gonna be visiting the gallery after, or your shop after the quarantine's lifted. And
Yeah,
I
please do.
definitely got to figure out a way to get one of those pieces, man. We got to figure it out, and
Of course,
want to have that up in my house, man, for sure.
of course, we'll make it happen.
Definitely, dude. Well, be good, dude. Thank you again, man. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
All right, man. Take care, bro. I think when you run a company, you start developing these relationships with certain um, people in the industry, and those relationships are honestly everything. You realize that you've seen, the city grow the way it has, and you've written that journey with these individuals. And then you kind of, the years go by and the gray hair starts coming in, some earlier than others. And then you look back and you're just like, wow, man, look at this. Like, we sort of blaze this trail both together and individually, and we look back and you see a city that has an art community that's 5 times what it was when you started. And you know that you had like a small impact in that. You had a small voice in that. I just love it. I just love seeing my friends doing great things. I think it's amazing. And specifically a special thing when it's a city that you love, like Miami.